live walkthrough tutorial on edge slicking. So I'll let things just gradually build up and put the notifications out. I'll just talk through for a few minutes. There is a straight off the belt grinder lever edge there, so you can see it's squared off. No single layer of the lever hasn't yet been reached by the belt grinder. Okay, it's all even. Now you can do this at either the stage just before stitching, or these are already stitched. So people are dropping in now. Oh, there's the back. So you can do the stitching before or after, it doesn't really matter, but it's once the two sides are glued, epoxied, whatever you're using, contact adhesive. What I always try and think about when I'm doing anything to do with an edge is get it as even as possible. So there, that's that sort of stage, and once it's slicked you end up with a more rounded and a sheen, and you've sealed the edges up. You look at things, either the look of it or the functionality of it. Okay, so we're sealing the edges up to stop the ingrain of oils, dirt, water, so it's actually protected. Plus you're either leaving it uncolored and just darkened up using whatever you're sealing the edge up with, or you're dyeing it as well. So what I'm going to do right from the beginning, I'm going to be dyeing it as well. So I'll walk through as methodical as possible. So I'm going to be using a wool dauber. Okay, these are basically half a sheet wrapped up in wire. And I'm going to be using the light brown. When you're applying it, you're not trying to roll the dauber over the edges, because you'll then be applying more dye to the front or the back of the thing, and you'll change the appearance because the accumulation of dye will make those areas darker. The actual rolled or slightly beveled edge is fine to accept a little bit more oil or oiled dye or dye itself. So here we go. So there's the flat of it done, and you could sort of just move the dauber over, and you can actually catch the edge as well. If you go like that with your fingers, you stop it running across the sheath. Away, all right, rather than wiping like this, you could travel across the sheath to the other side now. The dye itself is half of what the next stage is as well, which is wetting it down. So there's the dye. Now I've put brown on. You could have put black on, because you don't necessarily have to have the same color edge as what you do actual sheath. So there, that's wet. I can actually apply more water. So I'm going to, as if you'd already dyed it and it's dried, the next stage would be you're wetting it down. So you could use finger paintbrush or a dauber again. So now, being that that's wet, I'm just moving on with the next stage. I'm leaving the end for a special little bit at the end. That's a bonus extra. So that's now wetted. You can use gum tragacanth, sort of tree gum, granulated, mix it up with water. I use Dove soap. Dove soap, alright. This now is rubbed into the water and the edge. Now, you're rubbing the soap in, which is core moisturising cream as well, because Dove is like that. And the other thing you're doing, you're actually starting to slick it itself. Slicking being wet leather, pressed down, rubbed across, slicking. So that's now the Dove soap, and we start going to the next stage, which will be using a slicker. Varying grades of them. That's a cheap and nasty, cheap and cheerful. I've got this one now, which is denser, heavier, smoother. So it's a more of a African blackwood than it is a sort of beachy one. That one there is so rough in these grooves and channels, it doesn't really slick. You want something that feels heavy and smooth, not only on the edge of this long tapering face, but also in all the sort of channels in there as well. So what this is going to do is move up and down and conform to the profile of the sheath that you've ground with your grinder, or you've used sandpaper. Now, I've got my finger down like that, so I've got something to glide up and down the sheath, if that makes sense. A fair amount of pressure is also on speed. Sometimes you'll fly off the end. Okay, and turn it round and come at it this way as well. But what you don't want to do is slide off and whack the end hard and pressure wise and glance up the sheath like that. You want to keep everything guided and even, and you're just trying to press all that leather down, the wetted leather. Okay, and as it slowly transforms its appearance, okay, you can always then reapply a dash of water, and a dash of Dove soap. Again, the block of hard soap, you can actually slick the edge as you were doing with the slicker. So speed and pressure, and that guiding finger there as well. I've changed from the flat to the corner to get into that inner radius there as well. Up over the end, sometimes I can turn that round. Work like that. Up till this point, we've worked on the flat of the sheath. What you can do now is work on the corner. Now, as you've pressed down, you would ever so slightly mushroom the leather over, and you want to address that because you'll either have to bevel it off later, or you can train the leather back over as you sort of rubbed it, mushroomed it off the edge there. So I'm now coming at it sort of 45 degree, and then down into there, and you're manipulating, forcing, forming the leather how you want it to change its appearance. Going from a rough, sanded appearance to smooth, slicked, and obviously sealed, compressed down smoothed over so that it's resisting the ingress of dirt, oil, water. I've worked on that side. I'm right-handed, so now I'm going to turn that around and then 45-degree it again. So I'm going down the edge, working on that sculpted bit where I've followed the stitching line, the form of the sheath, as it were. I've caught the radius of the sander and created that look there, and I'm following that with the slicker. Okay, and you keep going, keep going, keep going, 5, 6, 7, however many times, until you've got as smooth an appearance on your sheath edge as you possibly can. Now I've left the top of the sheath for this last little bit now, just as a little pointer, and that's this section here. So just like before, I'm going to apply some dye. I'm going to use a paintbrush rather than a dauber. So you don't want any leather dye to go on your sheath, so you can actually do it upside down. Alright, so there's dye where I want it, not dribbled down the front of your sheath. Been there, seen it, done it, ruined, start again. Okay, let it soak in for a few seconds, and then same again, going to use some water, wet it down. Soap now in there. Two choices. You can give it a flat appearance, so that will be that. What I like to do is, because I've already slicked that edge there and that edge there, I like to go that way, and those two welt layers I'm going to create a sort of gentle concavity, so like that. Give it some effort, give it some welly. Change the position of the slicker to match the radius from the outer to the back, so you're go in like that over. That was too narrow, so now I'm using further up, if that makes sense. So now there. So now that looks neat and tidy, and then rolling the edge down inside there, so you haven't got a nasty 90-degree. So I'm now doing that, so you've got a smooth, rounded transition. You could wet that instead of having to go from the dauber and then to the soap. You literally could go water, soap, as I say, this is rough. I'm going to go back over this and do a Wessex job on it all again afterwards, but these are the fundamentals. So you've now and then I'm almost flat, just tidying up the edges. Go back over and over and over and over. So still a few more application sessions of it to go, but there's your edge slicked. Okay, and then that, a little bit more to go, but at least that's been applied in there rather than rough to the top of the welt. Okay, you can go back over water, Dove soap, slicker. Some people take the finishing of the leather even further before the slick, so they can actually get broken glass, broken tile, and they're scraping it across to get the finishing up. You can take sandpaper and really work that down, and they've even got these sort of like wooden blocks mounted on a bench grinder, so that's spinning around really fast and then you're applying it. I'm not into that because instead of that going on and that going on, you're getting fast and speed going in very local areas, so I prefer to go manually with that. But there's a quick walkthrough on how to slick the edges of the leather, and just say they've had 2 or 3 goes, eventually maybe 5 or 6 goes before I'll be happy with it. And then that is also an area that you can work on, and then don't forget to roll it over the side and tidy up the inner bit there. So thanks for joining me again. Scott from Wessex Blades with a live sort of walkthrough. Hope that's helped anybody. Yeah, very good. Thanks everybody for joining, and I'll see you on another one. Hopefully the audio's okay, framing's alright, but I think I got everything in frame. Thanks a lot. Scott, Wessex Blades out.